Hello creeps! Andy here. I was out sick last week, but I am back now, and today I would like to give you my reading wrap up for December. I read this many books, and we're just gonna go through and talk about them a bit. I didn't read as much as I would have liked to, so although it looks like I read probably the same amount, a lot of them are novellas. So yeah, I definitely didn't read as much as I would have liked in December. December is a busy month, but being sick on the couch the last week, I have done nothing but read. So I feel like I'm caught up on the reading that I would have liked to get done from last month. I got it all done this month. But anyways, so the first book that I read this month is Ronald Malfi's The Night Parade. Now you guys know that Ronald Malfi has quickly become one of my favorite horror writers this year, and it's because of his books Black Mouth and Come With Me. I absolutely adored those. But I also have read one of his novella book, you know, a few novellas in one book kind of thing, that I wasn't that huge of a fan of. Oh, this one, Ghost Written. And so I didn't know how I would feel about this one, and I absolutely loved it. This book was so good. I loved this so much. It's about this, I think it's an epidemic in the book that's kind of taking over the US, and it's killing people. People are dying left and right of just like horrible, horrendous illness. And it's cool because you get to see obviously like some similarities to our pandemic, but then you also get to see how bad things could have been. So it's just, you know, interesting to compare. I feel like anytime you read a pandemic or an epidemic type book, you always are brought back to 2020 and kind of compare it to your own situation. This was published long before that. So I think he really did a great job encompassing like kind of people losing their shit or not trusting the government and not trusting that you'll be taken care of and not being taken care of. Yeah, just people's fear of the unknown, of not knowing exactly what this illness is. It's a really great book. So it's about this man named David. He has a daughter named Ellie. And so him and Ellie, you find them kind of in the middle of their journey. They're driving far away and you don't really know what's happened as of yet, but you start to slowly uncover the events that led up into them kind of running. And so it's cool because you get to start out with David and Ellie, but then you also get these flashbacks. It's a lit candle. Oh my gosh. Oh, I just pictured your little fluffy body go up in flames. Oh, that was so scary. Are you okay, ma'am? Ooh. You good? Oh, thank you. So sweet, but so evil. Anyways, you get to see these flashbacks of what took place and kind of the beginning of this epidemic and how it started, and then how people slowly started to lose it and what it did to families and people and communities and whole towns. It's a wild ride. I will say that it's definitely heartbreaking at times and really, really sad. Ronald Malfi really does have a way of just tapping into your emotions, you know? And so, yeah, I loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. Absolutely worth a read if you want some sort of epidemic, pandemic type of book. The next one that I read was Tastes Like Christmas, a holiday horror novella by K.L. Hears. And this is about a group of thieves that get stuck in a town, and the town is dead set on reliving all of these tropes in movies. They think that the town's really creepy and weird at first, but then one of the thieves kind of falls in love with one of the town members, and so it's more like their love story. And yeah, it turns a little erotic at times, but then there's some murder. But it's kind of, it was really just like a cute Christmas book. Yeah, there's not a super lot to it. It's a quick little easy read, but yeah, a fun read for Christmas. The next one that I read was Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors. This was my first time reading any Alice Feeney books. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect going in. It did sound like it might be a little obvious what was going on, and I turned out to be completely wrong about everything, so I'm very thankful for that. But it's about this couple, Mr. and Mrs. Wright, and he has face blindness, so he's unable to recognize faces, and she is just like sick of feeling unseen, and they're having a lot of issues in their marriage. So they win this vacation away in Scotland to try to repair their relationship. And there's a lot of things that I really liked about this one. It's told from both of their perspectives. you get their perspectives and kind of their like annoyances with one another, but then you also are brought back in their relationship because it stops and it tells you a little story on every year of their anniversary. So like this is our third anniversary. It's the year of leather. Oh yeah, I just passed this anniversary, the wedding anniversary. And so it's told through the gifts that they give one another. And so this one was leather, and then it tells you what they had given one another and like how their relationship was at this time in their marriage versus, you know, you're reading about years later down the road. So there's a lot that I really, really, really liked about this book. I mean, yeah, I was just so thankful that this wasn't predictable, and I had a blast with it. I thought it was fun, and yeah, it was perfect for winter. The only thing I would say, there is one thing about this that really irritates me, and it's not anything big in the story. It's not anything that I feel like most people would probably even think about, but I'll say, like, if you just know me and you read the story, I think you could probably figure out what irritated me about it, because there was something that I was like, this is so unrealistic. But it's not even like about the plot of the movie, really. I mean, the book. It's just something that I found really irritating and irrational, even though it didn't really have that much effect on the book. And it didn't ruin the book by any means for me, but there's just something in there that I was like, no, absolutely no way. No way at all. So if you've read this book, let me know if you agree with me, because I have a feeling that if you know me, you'll know what I'm talking about. But otherwise, it's a thriller book that I didn't see coming, and that's really all I can ask with thrillers. So I'll definitely check out more of her work. Oh, one other thing I'll say is that she does have these really punchy one-liners. Let me see what she's getting into. Sounds like she's crawling in a bag of some sorts. Hey, can you get out of there? And I talked about this when I was reading it during the holidays, but she does have these really punchy one-liners in here. Like, I've always been better at collecting acquaintances than making friends. Cool lines that really stick out in the story. Here, there's a lot of them. Nostalgia is a dangerous drug. I've bitten my tongue so many times already on this trip, it must be full of holes. So there's a lot of those throughout, and at first I really liked them, but as the story continued and it wasn't just one character saying these lines, they did kind of start to take me out of the story. And they're, like I said before, those, you know, they went with the paragraph and stuff. But then this one, I read this in the last video too. It just says, maybe that's why I loved her so much in the beginning, but marriage changes people whether they like it or not. You can't unbreak an egg when you've already whisked it into an omelet. Although I do really like those important one-liners, I think there were a lot of things like that were kind of left in there that just didn't do anything for the paragraph and just took me out of the story more than that. So I'm really interested to read more of her work and see if it's always like that. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have read other books from hers, and yeah, let me know what you think. The next one that I read was the Christmas Morning Massacre by Nasir Rabadi, and this one was about a group of friends that gets snowed in into a cabin. There's also some lore surrounding the house about the old owner, how he went crazy and killed his family, his children, his wife, and I don't know about himself actually now that I think about it. But then there's also lore surrounding this like supernatural being as well. Anyways, the group of friends stays there and they get murdered off one by one. It felt a little bit like reading a campy Christmas horror movie, if that makes sense. So like some of the dialogue's a little silly and things like that, but like, you know, people get killed with candy canes and such, so good for Christmas. The next one that I read was Santahsploitation by Judith Sonnet, and I absolutely adored this book. This book was so fun. It was about a group of friends that abducts Santa Claus for some messed up purposes. And yeah, it's just raunchy. It's dark. This one is an extreme horror book, although I would say that it's not as extreme as most of the extreme horror books that I've read. Like, it's kind of mild in comparison, but you know, obviously check your warnings if you're sensitive to stuff. It was also hilarious. Like, they talk about how, what are you doing? They talk about how taffy is made by Santa's fecal matter. It's just like the most foul, fun, hilarious Christmas book out there. So highly recommend this if you guys are into more extreme stuff for next Christmas, because that was a blast. Next one I read was Let the Right One In by John Lindquist, and this one I adored. I loved this so much. I actually took some notes because this was my mine and my friends reading, what do you call that, group book for the month. Okay, so probably most people know this story. It's about a boy. Well, actually, maybe you don't, because I think the movie is quite a bit different than the book, actually. So it's about a young boy, and he's kind of bullied and beaten down by life and doesn't really have many friends, and a young girl moves in next door to him who turns out to be a vampire. So that's kind of the basis of the story, but then you have so many other people's stories mixed in as well, and the vampire aspects of the book are so mild and almost in the background of the story. It's much more about these people's lives than anything. I'm gonna go back to my notes to just make sure that I don't leave anything out. The vampire aspects are pretty subtle, and they don't even say the word vampire until 100 pages into the book, but you do have some of that stereotypical vampire stuff. You know, they can only go out at night, they rest during the day, they have to be invited in, cats don't like them, they're very old. It was so much more disturbing than I thought it was gonna be. This book, there's some messed up stuff in here. For example, one of the characters likes children in not a good way. Yeah, there's some messed up stuff in here, so I would say be prepared if you're gonna go into it and know that it's more messed up than a typical horror book is. It's not extreme horror, but there are some of the same topics, I feel like, that are discussed in extreme horror maybe. You also have some unique imagery in here that like really messed me up. There's one scene in particular where if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about, but there were a few scenes where I was like, holy crap, what am I reading? Some really, really disturbing stuff. But there's so much character development in here, and you get to know so many differing groups of people. And there's talk about war and bullies and the undead and murder, and like not maybe being loved as much as you'd want, or the relationship that you would want with friends or family, parents. And excuse me for a moment, because I'm gonna be all annoying and talk about the metaphor that I feel like is behind this book. I'm not saying this is what the writer intended, but to me the vampire did feel a little bit more like a metaphor for these people's lives. And even the title, like Let the Right One In, it just got me thinking of how these people's lives are messed up, and it's because of who they hang out with or who they're associated with or who they're, you know, stuck in a family with. And it just really made me think that, I don't know, Let the Right One In is more about like who you surround yourself with and the people that can either uplift you or really bring your life down. And so yeah, the vampire to me was a little bit, because you're just watching these people whose lives suck. I mean, frankly, there's like alcoholics and, you know, people who get bullied all the time. It doesn't seem like a lot of the characters have really rewarding lives. Another interesting thing about this book that I loved so much that I don't think that I've seen in any other book is that every single character is both a protagonist and an antagonist to different people in the stories. Everyone's both good and bad in different parts of the story to different people. And what an interesting revelation to read a book like that, because I mean, that's true, right? Like, we're all protagonists and antagonists in different people's stories in life. And so I thought that that was such an interesting way to read the book. You didn't particularly like the characters, but you could understand them in some way. And yeah, there's just a lot of originality in this book that I've never seen before. I'm not huge on reading books about vampires, but this really did make me question that and make me think, oh, maybe I am. I don't know. You know, leave it to me to always try to make something out of nothing. So anyways, absolutely adored this book. Loved every page of it. So different from what I remember the movie being. And after that, we had some Gingerbread and Deadly Dread by Addison Moore. This is the Murder in the Mix series that I always talk about. Yeah, same thing happens in this book. There's a murder in this cute little town, and this baker named Lottie Lemon has to go and solve it. And she does. Surprise, surprise. The same old stuff in this book, but just a cute ass story. And I just wanted a cute little December read where I'm like cozy with blankets on and reading a cute little cozy mystery, so that was perfect. And the last book that I read was David Grann's The Wager. This is a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. And this book was so amazingly fantastic, and thank you for whoever recommended this to me, because yeah, you guys just know me so well. You do. Every time you recommend a book to me and I read it, I'm like, you just get me. Anyways, this is about the British ships that are sent to kind of intersect this Spanish ship in 1742, and they're trying to intersect the ship to steal all of the gold and other valuable things that they knew that was on that Spanish ship. So anyways, a few of these boats sail out. I can't remember if it's like 5 or 6 of them, and you just get to see the absolute chaos that is sailing the open oceans in the 1700s. What ends up happening is there's a ship called the Wager. It's one of those ships that are going to try to intercept that Spanish ship, and it ends up being shipwrecked and people are stuck on this island. You have, like it says, mutiny and illness and just the fight for survival, and what these men had to go through was absolutely wild. It is a nonfiction book and it is told from a nonfiction perspective, so there's no emotion in this book. So it is definitely different than other books that I have read, and I guess I do read nonfiction, but I usually read autobiographies or biographies, and those are obviously told with more emphasis on emotions. Like, this was so devoid of emotion and it was just kind of fact, that at first I was like, ooh, this is definitely so different from anything that I've read in a long while. But then once the story takes off, you're so involved in what's going on and you're just questioning the whole time, what's going on? Who's gonna survive? You know, people are just dropping dead left and right. Well, I actually had a few quotes in here. Let me find my little guy. Okay, I forgot I took notes in my planner actually. So let's see what I had written down. Oh yeah, so a lot of the issues that happened were due to ego or pride. There was starvation, scurvy, typhoid, mutiny, escalating tempers after the shipwreck. Okay, so here's a few quotes here. This says that there was a 12-year-old boy pleading to a close companion for some extra flour, saying that he would otherwise not live to see Brazil, but his shipmate was unmoved. And then the quote said, because they got a lot of these records from journals and things that these men had and like personal accounts of what actually these people went through, but they were more like logs. They weren't like diaries, you know? But this just says, persons who have not experienced the hardship we have met will wonder how people can be so inhumane to see their fellow creatures starving before their faces and afford them no relief. But hunger is void of all compassion. And I thought that that was such a great line, because you can read this and be like, how are these men so ridiculous? But yeah, I mean, fear and hunger and everything they went through, you really can't put yourself in their shoes. There's also some pictures and cool stuff in here as well. This quote just says, empires preserve their power with the stories that they tell, but just as critical are the stories they don't, the dark silences they impose, and the pages they tear out. So he was kind of talking about why this wasn't a big story and why, you know, a lot of people don't know what happened. So luckily for us, David Grann had went through everything and made this account so we can actually see what happened. An amazing book, honestly. One of my favorite books of the year, a 5-star read. I absolutely loved that. So yeah, let me know what you guys read in December. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you soon with another horror video. I have a few more 2023 videos coming up, so hopefully that's okay. Everything kind of got pushed back, but I'm back now, so those will be coming out shortly. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye guys.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.